Wow, Mountaineer Nation. Is anyone else still shaking after that one? What a crazy roller coaster of a football game, especially there towards the end. West Virginia somehow manages to come out with their eighth win there at the end of it, come out on top 34-31 over Baylor. And we're here to talk about it with you guys in the West Virginia postgame show here, simulcasted on the West Virginia Voice of College Football channel and the Big 12 Voice of College Football channel. I guess the best way to put it is that the odds were in West Virginia's favor. Had a game like this earlier in the season with Houston, and came down to a Hail Mary, didn't end in West Virginia's way positively. This time it does. West Virginia gets the stop on the Hail Mary. They send the blitz this time, learn their lesson, bring a little heat, get to the quarterback, the backup that Baylor had subbed in there. They don't get the throw off the way that they had planned. West Virginia wins at 34-31, and of course, ton more transpired before that. Obviously, West Virginia putting together a drive with a minute and 14 seconds left and no timeouts following the missed Baylor field goal to go down and score on a 30-yard touchdown pass. Garrett Green hits Jaheim White on a real wheel route up the sideline, the left sideline there to give West Virginia the 34-31 victory and what was an absolutely crazy finish. But we're here to talk about it with you guys. Appreciate you guys being in here with us live. If you are in here, share your thoughts here on this crazy football game to end West Virginia's season. West Virginia ends the year with 8 wins, but it didn't come without us sweating a little bit and making us nervous. And I guess in some ways it's a bit of a bittersweet victory because I'm sure we were all feeling pretty bad about the way that this game had transpired, especially the second half up until that final drive or so, about the final 90 seconds of this game. I guess changed a lot of the way we were feeling because I know if we were coming on here at 7-5, I'd probably be speaking a different tune right now. But I guess there's something that lies to be made there about that still yet because you were in a position to lose this game, a position that you shouldn't have been in after how well you performed in the first half. Looked like you were going to dominate this game, save for some kick returns by Baylor, and then the second half it's a completely different story. But the best thing that I guess you can say about this year's West Virginia football team at the end of the day is something that really was shown in the end of that game, right? It was kind of this team in a nutshell, kind of a microcosm of this 2023 West Virginia football team, which, quantify it however you want to, is now the most successful West Virginia football team win-wise in over 5 years at WVU. And I think the best thing you can say about them, the one consistent thing you can say is they were resilient all year, battling back through, losses, battling back in games. We mentioned the Houston game earlier that went like this. They didn't play well, but fought right there to the end and thought they were going to win it at the end there. Same thing goes here. Had a terrible second half, but when it came down to it, no timeout. You get one more chance with a minute and 14 left. This team shows their resolve and their resiliency, and I think you definitely got a shout out to Garrett Green. Had a bad second half, as this entire offense did overall, but he gets it done right there when West Virginia needs it, and he does it without his starting center. Zach Frazier, goes down on that drive. Got to hope that he's okay, moving forward. Would hate to see him suffer an injury right here, getting ready to, potentially go into his NFL career. Looks like he's going to move on there. But all in all, at the end of the day, it's an exciting finish. West Virginia wins at 34-31. They finish the regular season 8-4 overall, 6-3 in the Big 12 conference, finishing the top 5 of the conference. It was a dramatic way to get there, but all in all, it's a victory for the Mountaineers. Appreciate you guys being in here for the post-game show. Now we see Timothy Green in here. Let's go Mountaineers. Indeed, man. Indeed. Silas says, I don't even care if we win this game. This should be the end of the Neil Clown era. And so that goes just back to a little bit of what I was talking about there. I think there is something to be made about how West Virginia performed in this game. But I guess at the end of the day, the old line, the old adage, just win, baby. At least they came out with the W this time, Silas. But I understand the frustration. I was certainly feeling that way. Like I said, up until like the final 90 seconds of this game, I was really singing a different tune. But this team, found a way to get it done, I guess. Even though they did look bad. They did look bad, Silas, for a good part of this second half for sure. Timothy Green says Neil Brown will be your coach next year, guaranteed. Oh, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. I mean, even if they would have lost this game, heard that he was probably coming back regardless at this point. But that definitely would have left a bad taste in the fans' mouth. So I think, for the sake of everything, it was glad that they found a way to, be resilient yet again and come away with the win at the end of this football game for sure. Mark, appreciate you, man. Voice of College Football. Exciting finish, 8-4 solid. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Any way you want to spin it. I know, West Virginia The people have been saying that they've beat up on, some weaker opponents, but you can only play the teams that are on the schedule. And West Virginia found a way to win 8 of those football games, and some of them in games that came down to the wire, just like this one tonight. And obviously, proved a lot of the naysayers wrong going into the season, predicted to, finish dead last in the conference. You finish in the top half, and, your first 8-win season in over 5 years. You can't be upset about that. And I think Mountaineer Nation should have plenty to be excited about, especially the fact of getting to enjoy, just some exciting football games with thrilling finishes. How many times have we done that throughout this season? A few that I've had to come on here and do these post-game shows with my hands still shaking and my heart still racing. And this one was certainly a case of that for this game. Another exciting finish, but at least West Virginia finds a way to get it done, survives the Hail Mary at the end this time, and comes away with the 8th win of the season. Jackson Johnson says, Neil Brown definitely getting that vote of confidence for 2024. Indeed, Jackson. Appreciate you as always, man. Big Dan T says, we did not deserve to win that game. I know it kind of felt that way, and that's kind of how it was trending. And throughout that second half, West Virginia got the ball back. I think it was, 4 minutes left, and couldn't muster a drive then. And I thought, it was probably over at that point. They get one more chance. Baylor goes to kick the field goal. You're thinking it's going to be a game-tying drive for West Virginia. Instead, they missed the field goal, so West Virginia has one more chance. If they can go down and find a way to finally score and win it, they'll steal it. And that's really what they did, Big Dan T. They stole this win. They probably didn't deserve to win this game, but the way I look at it, it's kind of the, football gods, I guess, getting back on your side a little bit, or karma getting back on your side, whatever you want to call it, because I think you look at the Houston game, the way that one came down at the end. West Virginia made the play, scored a touchdown with 12 seconds left. They probably, deserved to win that game at that point, and they ended up losing on a Hail Mary. So, get it back on with this one, get a little bit of good karma back, I guess you can say, Big Dan T. But I agree, didn't deserve to win it, but found a way to steal it at the end. And I'll take the 8th win. I'll take the win. Timothy Green says, who do you think will play in our bowl game? A good question. I haven't had a chance to dive into it too heavily. I'm going to try and do that probably tomorrow. Might put a video out about it, or I might just feature it on the Mountaineer News segment on the Baylor Review podcast there over on the Country Roads webcast. But I definitely have seen projections for either ACC team, SEC team, or Big Ten. Looks like what's most likely for a Power 5 opponent. So I think right now you may be looking at something like a Kentucky or a I'm trying to think of someone else I've seen West Virginia projected against. I think I've seen a Syracuse projection, and trying to think of, maybe I saw a North Carolina at one point for an ACC. I'd have to look into it more for sure, Timothy. But yeah, that's kind of how it's looking for now. Jackson Johnson said, W wins their bowl game, thus ending the 2023 season with 9 wins. Will there be momentum for 2024? I think so, because that's kind of what I was kind of banking on, was hoping, West Virginia would win these final 2 games, which they found a way to do. And I think if you can find a way to win your bowl game, you're going to end the year at 9-4, which would put you in the top 25, probably in the final poll of the season there. And that would be a big, something that Neil Brown could get off of his back as well, because that's one thing that's going against him, is the fact that he hadn't been ranked. A lot of people were talking about, need to have, a winning season. He's got that now. He's had his most successful season in terms of wins, but people are still saying, we haven't been ranked in the Neil Brown era yet. So people are waiting for that to happen. So I think if you find a way to win your bowl game, you're going to end the year ranked. People will, finally start to come around a little bit. And I think with the players you have coming back, if you can add a couple pieces in the transfer portal, you can really have the fan base bought in a way that they haven't in quite some time, potentially heading into 2024. But you're going to need that bowl game win even more so now, I think, just because the way that this 8th win came for West Virginia. You've already seen people here in the chat talking about it. They're a little bit unsatisfied, probably didn't deserve to win this game, and obviously wasn't the performance we were expecting, especially with how the first half was kind of transpiring. Looked like West Virginia was going to dominate the game. I think now getting a win in the bowl game may be even more important in terms of the tune of the fan base, really. Timothy Green says, Jordan, did you get the email I sent you? Haven't had a chance to check it today, Timothy. I'm going to try and check the email either tonight or first thing when I wake up in the morning, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I'll let you know if it came through. If it didn't come through, I'll reach out to you, though, Timothy. I appreciate you, man. G Smarta 746 says, kick the ball out of the end zone. The game was over in the first half without the 2 kickoff touchdowns. 100% agree. I mean, even if you take away maybe one of those kickoff return touchdowns, who knows if Baylor comes out fighting as hard in the second half if, the score is a little bit wider margin. And I don't understand if it was just the conditions. I know it was wet and rainy there, so maybe that's why. But we've seen Michael Hayes at times this season kick it out of the back of the end zone, or at least kick touchbacks, far enough into the end zone that the opponent wants to take a knee. But for some reason, it's just not been consistent. Like I said, the weather could have played a part in that in this game, but you just need more consistency in that area because he's shown that he can do it, but he just hasn't shown the ability to do it consistently. And, I'm surprised by that because I thought that really Michael Hayes was coming here specifically for kickoffs, and I think it turned out that he was more of a weapon for us in the field goal kicking game than in the kickoff specialist, obviously, as it turned out this year. But appreciate everyone tuning in and chiming in here to the West Virginia postgame show here on the Voice of College Football channel. And we're on the Big 12 Voice of College Football channel. Ask you to please subscribe there as well. West Virginia finds a way to defeat Baylor at the end, 34-31, to secure their 8th win of the season here, which means West Virginia will be heading to a bowl game. Very good stuff there, and hopefully it's close enough that West Virginia fans will be able to head to it and be within traveling distance. And if you do want to check out a way to, travel to that game, maybe get you some tickets to that game, we have a great source for you to be able to do that here at the Voice of College Football. And that is, of course, Ticket Smarter, where you can save on your next trip to the big game. You can get $10 off an order of $100 or more by using the promo code BIG, or get $20 off an order of $300 or more by using the promo code BIG20. Use the promo code as much as you'd like. Ticket Smarter gives you the most competitive prices on the secondary market, and your purchase is both safe and guaranteed. Get in the game with Ticketsmarter.com or use the TicketSmarter mobile app, and just remember the promo codes BIG and BIG20. Think smarter, Ticket Smarter. And having said that, guys, I guess I'll dive in onto some of my notes now from the game, but I encourage you guys to continue. Drop some of your thoughts on this contest. I know it was a crazy one that West Virginia found a way to win at the end of the day and ultimately end up with their 8th win, but I'll run through some of my notes here. I didn't get to take too many there. Once it got into late in the fourth quarter, my heart was racing, especially on West Virginia's final drive, but I think I remember most of the things from it. But we'll run it back from the start here, and encourage you guys to share some thoughts in the chat there. I'll touch on your guys' thoughts throughout here. But obviously one of the things I noted, West Virginia on the offensive line, Jaquay Hubbard getting the start there at right guard in place of Brandon Yates. I know he was a little bit banged up last week, but ultimately he ended up being okay. He played in this game throughout and, of course, played center there in West Virginia's final, would end up being the game-winning drive. But West Virginia gets the opening coin toss and receives the football, as has kind of been customary for them here lately. They've got off to quick starts doing that, and you were hoping they were going to do that again in this game, and it looked good that they would be able to early. First play of the game, sail route to Traylon Ray was there, but it was incomplete. But then you hit a quick hitter pass to Rodney Gallagher III, and I thought it was a cool design. It was a similar play to West Virginia's been using to Rodney Gallagher, where they've just been hitting him on that little, smoke or now screen, whatever you want to call it. But they lined him up almost like in an up-back formation in front of Jaheim White, and then motioned him out and then hit it to him on that way. So just a different look for it, but it was a 4-yard gain for West Virginia. But then you get a tough catch made by Traylon Ray on a slant route on 3rd and 6, and it was a good throw by Garrett Green, hard throw to fit it in there. West Virginia gets a first down. Looks like they're on the move on their opening drive, but then you have a mishap. GG can't handle the snap, kills the first drive for West Virginia, and they have to punt the ball away to Baylor. Baylor gets the football. 2 Robertson runs on their first 3 plays. That would be a theme for Baylor, especially throughout the first half. They didn't hardly throw the football that much, but Robertson, I was really impressed with the Baylor quarterback, especially his completion percentage. I know at one point he was started, I think he started the game 10 for 10. He only had 3 or 4 incompletions in this game. I was really surprised that Baylor brought in that backup quarterback to throw the Hail Mary. I'm guessing that arm strength just must not be Sawyer Robertson's main strength there. I believe they were outside the 50. I believe it was 52 yards away or something like that. So it's pretty decent length to try and throw the football there. But Robertson was pretty accurate on some of his deep balls. He hit a couple 40-yarders in the game. So I don't know, but a curious decision for me with just how Robertson had played in the game anyways, but get to that more later. West Virginia holds on Baylor's opening possession near midfield. Baylor punts it back to the Mountaineers with about 7 minutes left in the first quarter. West Virginia's second possession would begin inside their own 10-yard line following that punt, and this would be West Virginia's first scoring drive, and it was pretty impressive. When 90 yards in 84 seconds, the Mountaineers would go, as Jaheim White's third carry of the game would go for 53 yards, as Zach Frazier, impressive as he is, to be a center and pulling, snapped the football and then pulled off that left side to Jaheim to lead Jaheim White, who bounced it outside for that 53-yard gain. And then the very next play, West Virginia goes play action, and it's Garrett Green hooking up with Traylon Ray again on a post pattern for a 30-yard touchdown for West Virginia to take the early lead. Baylor gets the football back. They get into a 3rd and 1. They try to design something up for Robertson to run, and it's a beautiful tackle for a loss by Aubrey Burks. And West Virginia forces Baylor into a 3-and-out on their second possession of the game. Then we get C.J. Donaldson in on West Virginia's third possession, and this one we get our first sighting of Brandon Yates checking back in at right guard, where he's been the starter for most of the season. C.J. would get 1 carry on this drive, but still just didn't look 100%, and then would, really only be seen, spot action throughout the rest of the game. It would mainly be Jaheim White and Justin Johnson involved there. Garrett Green breaks an explosive run on his first carry, RPO look, which he decided to keep and then take off on. And then where I lost my spot here. Sorry about that, guys. And then Jaheim White breaks another 20-plus yarder. And this was probably his most impressive run on the day to me, just because I think it was an inside zone call. He kind of bounced it left, and there's 2 unblocked defenders just almost sitting there waiting on him, kind of holding that edge contain for Baylor, and he just simply runs around them and picks up that 20-plus yard gain. And Jaheim White was super impressive in this game, especially in this early first quarter. He had essentially 100 yards rushing in the first quarter. I think it was, 13 minutes left in the second quarter when he would go over 100 yards rushing. He had a little bit banged up. I don't know if it was a shoulder or a chest at one point. After that, wasn't exactly the same, but then late in the game really made some impressive plays, including obviously the game-winning touchdown, but had a blitz pick up on that game-winning drive as well. So, started to make some plays there late, and the drive before that when West Virginia finally moved the ball again, it was Jaheim White making some plays there as well. But that wraps up the first quarter. Getting into the second quarter now, West Virginia's third drive fizzled out in the red zone. Then you get where you get the first Michael Hayes field goal. He hit it from 38 yards out. And then this would be where you would get these special teams plays that would kind of be the game breakers for Baylor that kept him in this game in the first half, but then ultimately led to the crazy second half that we would see. And the first one here being obviously Richard Reese. This one he comes through and there's a couple guys right there on him, and they kind of hit him with an arm tackle. He runs right through those. And then at that point, he's able to hit the sideline. And I forget about it. Richard Reese is probably faster than anyone on West Virginia's roster. At least it looks like it out there on the field. It's a 96-yard kickoff return touchdown for Reese. West Virginia gets the football back. Jaheim White goes over 100 yards, as I mentioned. And then this will be Hudson Clement. Glad to see him back, in the game. This would kind of be his resurgent performance. We know ever since he suffered that injury, we've been seeing him, here, few and far between, I guess you could say. But he would be back in a big way in this game, and this would kind of be the start of it. 35-yard catch on a go route there, a fade ball for a big third down conversion for West Virginia on a 3rd down and 4. And then a beautifully designed quarterback keeper. West Virginia has RG3 in the orbit motion, and then you have Jaheim White looking like he's going to take the outside zone handoff, and so they're kind of crisscrossing. And then also coming across the formation once the ball snapped is Cole Taylor, who's actually lead blocking for Garrett Green after faking that handoff to Jaheim White. And it's an easy, almost walk-in 23-yard touchdown for Garrett Green there. So West Virginia scores. Like, okay, we'll kick the ball back off. No way Richard Reese does it again. Lightning doesn't strike twice, but in this game, unfortunately, it does. Richard Reese back-to-back kick return touchdowns. I don't know if I've ever seen that. One guy on his, second consecutive kick return touchdown, do it again. But Richard Reese does it in this game. 93 yards this time. Then West Virginia gets the ball back. Garrett Green quarterback draw for 20-plus to open the drive. Corner route to Cole Taylor off of play action puts WVU back in the red zone after that. Then this would be when White would get injured here in the second quarter, and I was really concerned there because CJ was already playing injured. As we know at this point, he's not 100%, as I mentioned earlier. West Virginia held to a field goal after that. Michael Hayes knocks it through from 36 yards out. Baylor gets the ball on offense. 5:36 left in the second quarter, and it's the first time the Baylor offense had been out on the field since 4 minutes left in the first quarter. And then Baylor would throw their first pass of the game right there and their first play out, a 37-yard gain to the tight end there on the second quarter. And then getting ready to wrap up here in the second quarter, Bartlett with a sack on Robertson. That was Bartlett's 4th sack of the season. I think it was one of 2 or 3 sacks in the game for West Virginia. I know of at least 2 off the top of my head, which ended up forcing a missed field goal for Baylor, which obviously proved to be crucial in this game with the 3-point difference there at the end. One of two missed field goals for Baylor there. So, important sack for Bartlett to push them out of field goal range there. West Virginia gets the ball back with 1:46 left in the half at their own 26. And, that's another positive thing I think you can take away from this game, something that we've seen throughout this season, whether it's been at the end of half 2-minute drills or at the end of game. Obviously, we saw it here for West Virginia when Garrett Green executes a game-winning drive late. But right here in the second quarter, we see it as, again, another successful 2-minute drill situation for West Virginia. They've done a good job in these situations throughout the season. They get the ball back here, 1:46 left on their own 26. They nearly go 3 and out, but Traylon Ray draws a defensive pass interference on a 39 deep ball, and Traylon Ray's drawn, at least a handful of those this season. I think he really has a knack for that, and he's going to be a weapon for West Virginia moving forward. Let's not forget, he wasn't here for the spring. He wasn't here for the summer. He got here just as fall camp started, so I think Traylon Ray is going to be special. Down the line, really has a knack for forcing those DPIs and also just for beating defensive backs as well. But then following that defensive pass interference, Garrett Green would drill a dig into Cole Taylor for a 26-yard gain on the very next play, then hits Preston Fox down to the 12-yard line, back-to-back plays with good Garrett Green throws. He would then scramble down to the 1-yard line. No timeouts left for West Virginia at that point. They got to hurry to the line. Garrett Green gets behind C.J. Donaldson, follows him into the end zone. West Virginia scores with 15 seconds left, takes the commanding lead there into halftime. West Virginia has over 200-plus rushing yards in the first half, over 350 yards of total offense. Looks like they're going to cruise to a win. But as we know, the second half would be a bit different story. I'll get into my notes on the second half momentarily. Take a swig of my water here, and then I'm going to catch up on some of your all's comments before I do that, though. Silas, 2 kickoff returns. That was painful. It was, man. It's like I said, I don't know if I've ever seen that. I've obviously seen back-to-back kickoff returns, but it's usually like when I've seen it in the past, I think I've seen like one team returns a kickoff for a touchdown, then the other team kicks off, and then the other team runs it back. And, it's back-to-back in that way. But I don't think I've ever seen, one player return back-to-back kickoffs for a touchdown in college football in a game that I've watched anyways. I'm sure it's happened before, but certainly crazy. And definitely painful, and kept Baylor in this game and made the second half a lot different of a football game than maybe it could have been if they don't have those. But, shout out to Richard Reese. That's a guy that, last year was a freshman, the freshman of the year in the Big 12 Conference, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, was a standout running back for the Bears. This year had really, took in, a bit of a sophomore slump, I guess you could say, taking a step back. But this game, he kind of came back out and looked a little bit like last year's version of himself. He made some plays on offense for him as well, but really there on the kickoff return, that was impressive. He made plays. West Virginia's kick coverage is something they're going to have to work on this offseason. That's been a sore spot. There's been a lot of bright spots this season, but if you're going to pick out one spot to nitpick, I think kick coverage and, really kickoff in general, whether it's us not kicking it out of the end zone, maybe need to do some better things with our coverage scheme, but also our kick return has left a lot to be desired, so I think that's something we need to work on this offseason for sure, especially after this game. Williams said, look, I'm so whatever with the past few years, and now that I don't know how to feel about anything, yeah, it's nice to have 8 wins, but something is just off and doesn't feel right. I know, William. I can't put my finger on it either. I think a lot of the fan base is feeling the way that you're feeling. I think that I just am trying to, hopefully be, I guess I'm being Mr. Optimistic. I always call it, putting on the gold and blue colored glasses over on the Country Roads webcast. But I think, 8 wins, it's hard to, be disappointed with, even though this one was kind of bittersweet is kind of how I termed it earlier with the way that West Virginia ended up winning, kind of stealing it here in a game that maybe they didn't deserve to win, but they found a way to win. That's one thing. They found a way to win 8 games this year, and it's the first 8-win season in over 5 years. So that's good. But, what's keeping me optimistic, I guess, is that maybe, just maybe, they're turning a corner now when you look at the fact of a lot of these pieces coming back, especially the young talent on offense. I mean, look at the guys that made plays on West Virginia's game-winning drive, Hudson Clement, Jaheim White, Garrett Green, they'll be back. And also, let's not forget, Zach Frazier, like I said, hopefully he's okay. But West Virginia will probably not have him on the team next season. And West Virginia just executed a game-winning drive to win a football game without him on the field. So, that bodes well for the future because Brandon Yates is going to return. He probably is going to slide over and be your starting center next season. So, that bodes well for the future, the pieces that you return. I think now what you've got to hope is that you're able to add some transfer pieces in the off season at the spots that you're going to need, which is going to be cornerback is going to be the major one there. You're losing both your starters. You need to go find multiple Beanie Bishops. He was a big addition for West Virginia this offseason. So I think if you can do a good job on retainment, which I'm expecting this offseason to West Virginia, for West Virginia to do the best job they have yet in an offseason of being able to retain their star players. The NIL is in a great spot for West Virginia, better than it has been in any other offseason. And also, West Virginia is going to have more money coming into that collective than they have in any other offseason because people have finally seen wins from this team. They see an 8-win season, so more money is going to come in. West Virginia may be able to get some even more bigger pieces in the transfer portal than they've been able to add in recent years. So, you accompany that with the fact that you could retain some of these pieces for next year. And I think West Virginia has a really good, solid core. And you could be looking at a team that could compete next year. And I think that that's going to be the tell-all, though. I think if West Virginia doesn't compete for a conference title next year, then it probably could be the last year of the Neil Brown era, William, because I think a lot of people are feeling the way that you're feeling. But just looking at the core on offense and defense, right? I mean, let's just talk, offensive line. Essentially, you're going to lose Zach Frazier, Doug Nestor, but pretty much everyone else comes back. And then you're returning Garrett Green. You're returning Jaheim White, C.J. Donaldson, Hudson Clement, Traylon Ray, Rodney Gallagher. That's on offense. Then you look on defense. Like I said, you're going to have to add some corners, but you're bringing back most of your safeties. At one of those corners, you could potentially get a waiver for Montre Miller. I think he'll go for that medical waiver, and you could get him, a guy that we didn't get to see this season. He's a player that I was high on in the offseason when he transferred in. So that could be one answer at corner. So you may only have to add, one or two different cornerbacks, especially if Jacoby Spells comes on with his potential. But I'm really excited because the defensive line depth, we saw it this year, and a lot of those guys are young. But how about the linebacker position? I know we lose Lee Koba, but also before the season, we lost a guy that arguably was going to be the best freshman there in Josiah Trotter, the son of Jeremiah Trotter. So you'll have him as a redshirt freshman next season. You'll have Trey Lathan, and the West Virginia defense was playing its best football of the season when Trey Lathan was on the field. West Virginia's defense started struggling after Trey Lathan was lost for the season in that TCU game. He was really doing some phenomenal things there at the position and was on his way to being an all Big 12 type of player. So you'll have Trey Lathan, Trotter, and then, of course, Ben Cutter, who was forced to start this whole season as a true freshman. He'll be back with experience under his belt, and he really came into his own. And then let's not forget West Virginia has some other guys as well, like a James Hurd at the bandit position that, didn't play this season. He'll be a redshirt freshman. But I think what I'm kind of predicting, I don't know if it's going to happen, is that next year Trey Lathan slides over, plays bandit for West Virginia because he certainly can do it. He's shown that capability to be that type of player, to be able to do pass rush and all of those things when he was playing this season. So I think next season you could be looking at starting linebacking core of Cutter at the mic, Trotter at the wheel, and Trey Lathan at the bandit. And that's going to be very scary for opposing offenses, especially with all three of those guys being young as well. So I think West Virginia has a good group of guys. If they can retain them, add a couple pieces, they really have a bright spot. So I know how you're feeling. I know a lot of people are feeling that way as well, but we'll see how it pans out. Steve Reed says we will play Maryland in the bowl game, I guess, for the draw he's talking about. Hey, I wouldn't be mad to see a rivalry in the bowl game. I know I seen one projected against Syracuse. I think I'd rather play Maryland than Syracuse. I would like to get back at Maryland. I went up there, 2021, I guess? Was it 2 years ago? Year before last? Or was that last year? Can't remember. That was year before last. Yeah, because 2022 I went to the game at Pitt. But, yeah, 2021 I went up there to watch us play at Maryland. Thought we would win that game and didn't put on the best performance. They got after us pretty good. So I would love to, get some revenge for that. Wouldn't be mine. I think it's going to be a decent bowl matchup for West Virginia no matter who it is. So we'll see who that is. But for sure, 8 wins on the year at least. We'll take it. And, if you can find a way to win that bowl game, finish the year in the top 25, that'd be huge. That would be absolutely huge. Joey Foster, appreciate you as always, man. Joey says, Frank Fear and I agree, from indefensible to indescribable today on the football field. Man, that's absolutely a great way to put it, man. You talk about a good headline right there, Joey. It really was, because that's what I was saying earlier. I said up to about, the point where there was like 90 seconds left in this football game, I was feeling absolutely terrible. I was thinking I was going to come on here and rant about how maybe some changes need to be made. And I'm not necessarily saying that some may not still need to be made. I think that obviously Neil Brown's coming back, and I'm in his corner 100%. And I think, I just ran down all the potential for West Virginia to be able to compete next season in the Big 12. But this defense has left some to be desired at times this season. So I don't know if it's, an assistant. I don't know. I'm not necessarily saying defensive coordinator for sure, but I would not be surprised to see some type of staff changes in the offseason. Just, because the way that things panned out there in the latter portion of this season. I know they were dealing with some injuries, so we'll see. I thought they would make staff changes last year and didn't, though. So maybe not. Maybe they're just going to try and, keep everything all together and try and ride it out one more year and all go down together if it falls apart next season. But for sure, that's a great way to put it. It was definitely indefensible early. West Virginia didn't play the game they should have played. Just looking at that first half performance, you take out the kick returns. That's the type of game that this should have been. West Virginia should have played that way throughout. I don't know what happened to the offense in the second half, save for that final drive and maybe even the drive before that, if you want to call it. They moved the ball a little bit, but they got it done when they needed to, right? Indescribable, for sure. Indescribable finish. It's kind of one of those that you don't know how to feel about, right? But at the end of the day, like I said, just win. And we'll take 8 wins no matter how we come up with it. We stole it at the end, but we got it done. 34-31, West Virginia takes down Baylor. Appreciate everyone being here for the West Virginia post-game show. We're simulcasting on the West Virginia channel and the Big 12 channel. Be sure to subscribe to either one of those. We appreciate that a lot. And if you're in here live, or even if you're watching this on a playback, hit that thumbs up button. Really helps a lot. Helps this thing hit the YouTube algorithm, helps its performance, and helps future videos performances for us here on the channel as well. Brian Perry says, what a game, and that defense was not good enough tonight. Maybe you need to take a look at replacing the DC. Hey, it goes right along with kind of what I was just talking about there. I think that someone on that defensive staff probably, or on the staff in general, is going to have to be a scapegoat just for, how some of these things turned out in the latter portion of this season. Because you look at it, if West Virginia can get a few more stops, say against Houston or Oklahoma State, either one, could be talking about a 10-win team. Can't compete with the Big 12 championship, especially with that type of secondary. You absolutely got to improve the secondary. That's the main priority. I think priority number one this offseason is going to be improving that. They've shown that, though. West Virginia's 2024 recruiting class has a ton of defensive backs coming in as freshmen next season, and I think in the transfer portal, you'll see West Virginia try and make a splash and pick up at least 2 probably big-name corners, and hopefully they can get another Beanie Bishop. If we can get at least one more Beanie Bishop, I feel a lot better about next season with some of the guys we have on the roster, because Beanie was an awesome pickup this year. But for sure, defense is going to have to play better next season for us to potentially compete for a Big 12 title, like I hope that we can, Brian Perry. I appreciate you, man. Joey says, wanted to give Wolfley a call so bad in the fourth quarter. He would have been fired up. I miss that true Mountaineer so much. As do I, Joey, man. As do I. He's had some of the best content out there, too, and no one can review film like Wolf, man. I would have loved to see him break down, especially with West Virginia's offense, how they were, firing this latter portion of the season. Would have loved to see him break down some of that. But, yeah, for sure, man. No one got into it like Wolf. Such passion. I miss him. Miss him a lot, Joey. Joey Foster said, Clemson really wants to play us. I truly hope that does not happen. Not this year. Yeah, I think it would be interesting, and certainly they would be motivated, and I would be scared for that. But, I think I told you before, Joe, I have a good friend that's a really big Clemson fan. So obviously it would be interesting for me and him to just go back and forth as we did before that Orange Bowl. But I also think it'd be interesting because Clemson, since they started winning again, they're really committed to the run. I mean, 30-plus carries for Maffa in a few games. And so it'd be an interesting matchup of two teams that really want to run the football. I think it would be kind of like our game against UCF was maybe, or something like that. But that's definitely a matchup that could potentially happen, is West Virginia could play Clemson. I kind of hope it doesn't happen also. I think not that it's a bad matchup. I think West Virginia could match up with Clemson, but there's just some other teams that I would rather play, I guess, potentially. I need to look into who else some of those matchups may be, though, overall. But appreciate you guys tuning in and chiming in. Encourage you guys. Continue to drop your thoughts there. I'll touch on them again before we wrap up here before too much longer. But got to get into this crazy second half. I'm going to run through my notes on it a little bit here. Take one more swig of my water before I do that. But don't have nearly as many notes on the second half, like I said, especially in the fourth quarter once West Virginia, I thought that they were about to lose this game, and then when they were making that game-winning drive, I was just too much on the edge of my seat, and my heart was racing too much to even be able to pick up my pen and write anything down. But I think I remember a lot of stuff from that game-winning drive when we get there. But picking up in the third quarter, and I think West Virginia obviously began it with a costly late hit on the first play of the half. I think a couple of penalties here were costly for West Virginia in this second half. And Baylor's best drive ensues following that costly late hit on Baylor's first play of the half, and it culminated with the 38-yard touchdown pass from Robertson to Jackson, and that wide receiver Jackson had a good game for Baylor. Robertson was currently 8 of 8 on that point, 8 of 8 at that point, excuse me. And West Virginia really needed to answer, you felt like on their first possession of the half, and it looked like they were going to. And I mentioned two penalties I thought really hurt West Virginia in the second half, and they were both right here. One on defense, West Virginia's first defensive possession that I just mentioned, that late hit on Ben Cutter. And then on offense here, I think this holding penalty really hurt West Virginia as well. You take those two penalties out, the second half might be a different story also. But, like I said, West Virginia managed to get the win, so I can't complain too much overall at the end of the day, I guess. But the big penalty right here that was a big swing, I thought, was West Virginia's first play. Garrett Green fakes a jet sweep, goes for 47 yards, and West Virginia looks like they're going to have the ball set up, right on the cusp of the Baylor red zone. But it's called back due to a holding penalty, and instead it's 1st and 16. Next play, Baylor forces a TFL, puts West Virginia in 2nd and 21, and ultimately leads to West Virginia going 3 and out. And at that point, I just knew Baylor had the momentum. West Virginia punts, and as another special teams blunder, was not a good special teams game for West Virginia, and it's been a rough special teams year, overall, I think, for Andrew Wilson-Lamp. He was the same one that forced, a muff earlier in the year. This time he straight kind of just ran through the Baylor return man. I don't think he ever saw the guy trying to field the punt for Baylor. So that was another penalty. Sets Baylor up near midfield. Very first play, Robertson goes right back to Jackson again, 40 more yards, puts Baylor in the red zone. And then on 1st and goal, a few plays later, Dominic Richardson would run it in, and Baylor would take their first lead. And I just kind of jotted down that it was just absolutely stunning after how West Virginia appeared to, dominate that first half, save for those kick return touchdowns. But Baylor really came out firing and found a way there in the second half to make this an interesting football game, and one that it looked like they were going to win for the majority of the second half up until, those final 90 seconds or so. As I said, but West Virginia gets the ball back and finally gets the huge play that it looks like they needed. West Virginia had another holding penalty. It put them into 2nd and 16, and it looked like they were going to give the ball right back to Baylor after, falling behind. And West Virginia gets a huge play from Preston Fox, who makes an incredible adjustment to somehow swing around and catch a 31-yard pass from Garrett Green that was a little bit, high and behind him, but full extension, stretched out and grabbed him, actually to the point that he injured himself. Hopefully he's okay as well. Don't think that he returned to the game. Saw Jaheim White take his place at kick returner for the rest of this one. So hope that, we get positive news on Preston Fox and Zach Frazier, for the bowl game. Hopefully Zach Frazier is planning on playing on that, but nonetheless want him to be, healed up for his future, and may need Preston Fox in the bowl game. But the good thing is West Virginia has plenty of time to heal up now, obviously, with this being the last game of the regular season. So Preston Fox makes that huge catch, but then West Virginia would have to punt, but they do flip the field thanks to that huge catch. Baylor would start their own drive there inside their own 20. West Virginia's defense needing a stop. Looked like they were going to get it, but Baylor converted a 4th down on what was actually a free play. West Virginia jumped off sides on the 4th and 3, but Baylor uses the free play to convert a long pass on the final play there of the third quarter and put them into scoring territory already with the lead. West Virginia would bow up there into the fourth quarter as we get into the fourth quarter of the notes here, force them to a field goal. West Virginia's offense really needed to wake up was a note I jotted down at that point. And it looked like they were going to. Jaheim White breaks a 15-yard run on the second play of that drive. But then Garrett Green on 3rd and 6 has Traylon Ray with the step on his man deep, but just slightly overthrows him off of his fingertips. West Virginia has to punt the ball back to Baylor down 31-27. Baylor gets the football back. Eddie V gets a clutch sack on 3rd down. West Virginia gets the ball back. 6 minutes and 30 seconds left in the game at this point. When West Virginia gets this football back, they've had 3 second-half possessions and 3 punts. So you're really not feeling too confident, but 6 minutes and 30 seconds left. You got at least one more chance. And this was what I thought would probably be the final chance for West Virginia. And I think the Mountaineers felt that way as well because they get to a 4th and 1 near midfield on their own side of the field still yet, though. They try and go for it. They try and run the tush push with Garrett Green, the quarterback sneak there. Doesn't work. Baylor stuffs it. West Virginia turns it over on downs. I actually put in my notes at this point, game over, question mark in parentheses. West Virginia had 3 timeouts, but Baylor was already, in Mountaineer territory, so you thought they were at least going to get a field goal. So at the best that you thought was maybe West Virginia could be able to force overtime, but you never know what's going to happen in this crazy game as it turns out at the end, in the way that we all know that it did. West Virginia goes back on the defensive there. Immediately a big play for Richard Reese on the first play there for Baylor, and they're in the scoring zone inside the 30. West Virginia looks like they have a stop there, and they're going to save some of those timeouts. They have Baylor into a 3rd and 9 following that, but they set up a middle screen to Dabney, the tight end, who has been their second leading receiver on the season, but hadn't had any catches in this game up to that point. But man, that was a great time for him to have his first one, and it was in a clutch situation. First down, Baylor in the red zone, under 2 minutes left at that point. You really weren't feeling good about West Virginia's chances because, they have 3 plays to stop Baylor right there and use the 3 timeouts. Let Baylor kick the field goal and then hope they can score with no timeouts remaining. Luckily for the Mountaineers, Baylor goes backwards a little bit, and actually I think it ended up being 3rd and 11. Then they don't get anything, and so the field goal was a little bit longer than what it could have been for Baylor. West Virginia gets those stops in those 3 plays. They burn up the 3 timeouts. It's a 32-yard field goal for Baylor. The kicker comes on, misses this one slightly off to the left, I believe it was. So then at that point, West Virginia gets the ball, 1:14 left, no timeouts. Got to go, 60, 65, 70 yards, I think. But at this point, a touchdown not only ties the game, a touchdown wins the game. West Virginia puts together a good drive, a couple Garrett Green runs. He breaks there. One he gets out of bounds on. The next one he gets a first down on. And on that run, they highlighted Jaheim White with a good blitz pickup to allow Garrett Green to be able to, shoot out the middle there and get that first down. So that was a nice play by Jaheim White. And then I think it was either the next play or the play after that. West Virginia is, on the 29, 30-yard line of Baylor. I think there's a little bit less than 30 seconds to go at that point. And in the shotgun, before the snap, Garrett Green motions Jaheim White out to the left. And I'm thinking that's kind of weird. You're obviously passing the football here. You have no timeouts. It's weird that Jaheim White wouldn't stay in for pass protection. That's what I'm thinking as the ball snapped. Jaheim White motions out to the left. About that time, the ball snapped. I see Jaheim White, kind of head up the rail there on a wheel route. And I see the guy coming over, and I'm like, that's the number on his jersey. I'm like, that's a linebacker. I'm like, if Garrett Green has time, he might be able to hit Jaheim White. Lo and behold, the throw comes out from Garrett Green. He's targeting Jaheim White up that left sideline. There's nobody there. The throw looked a little long at first, but Jaheim White, we know he's got that quick burst, runs right under it. Easy touchdown. West Virginia scores. 23 seconds left in the game. West Virginia goes up 34-31. Jaheim White with a couple of big plays on that game-winning drive, one on the blitz pickup, and then, of course, the game-winning receiving touchdown there, obviously, for the Mountaineers. And then can't shout out Garrett Green enough. Like I said, he's put together multiple successful drives in 2-minute situations and also multiple successful game-winning type drives for West Virginia. We saw him do it last year, against Oklahoma. We saw him do it this year, potentially against Houston, with 12 seconds left. But then, of course, they would get the Hail Mary, as we know. Then this game, he does it yet again. No timeouts, drives with 1:14, scores with 23 seconds left. At this point, obviously, if you're a West Virginia fan, you're nervous for multiple reasons. One, Richard Reese has already ran back 2 kickoffs for touchdowns. 2, you've already lost a game on a Hail Mary this season. So you're a little bit worried. West Virginia squibs the kick. Reese gets it, but good coverage by the Mountaineers there. They stop him. Baylor runs a few plays. They're able to get it right near midfield. And I think their final play, they get out of bounds. 4 seconds left. They're on about, I think they're about 52, 53 yards out. And I'm just thinking in my head, there is no way that we're going to lose twice on a Hail Mary, because I don't know if there's ever been a team to lose a game on 2 Hail Marys in one season. So I'm like, we can't be that incredibly unlucky. Turns out that we weren't. West Virginia finds a way this time. The difference was, I think, when that Hail Mary against Houston, one of the things that we talked about is Houston had 12 seconds. They were able to run a play, then hurry up and run the Hail Mary on the next play. And it wasn't like a dead ball situation before the Hail Mary. West Virginia really wasn't able to substitute before that. They weren't able to talk about the play. They weren't able to really plan out how they wanted to do it. In this situation, they were. Baylor calls a timeout, I believe, before the Hail Mary. 4 seconds to go. They change quarterbacks. West Virginia comes up with a play to, send Marcus Floyd on that nickel blitz that he's been successful with on this season. He comes in on that. West Virginia blitzes, I think, 5 guys on that play, if I'm not mistaken. Marcus Floyd finally gets to the quarterback as he's trying to throw it, kind of swats his arm, never really gets released. West Virginia wins the game 34-31, finishes the year 8-4 overall and 6-3 in Big 12 play. First 8-win season in over 5 years for West Virginia is how it comes out. So that's kind of all I had noted on this crazy football game that West Virginia was able to steal at the end. So it's pretty much all I got. Want to catch up on some of your all's comments here before we get ready to wrap up. But before I do that, just wanted to say I appreciate you guys not only tuning in here to this post-game show, but to tune into these throughout the season as we've hosted them. And if you've enjoyed them, I encourage you to check out our other West Virginia sports content that we host here on YouTube and on all podcast platforms. You can find that by searching Country Roads Webcast if you want to check out more from myself here in regards to West Virginia content. We cover both Mountaineer football and basketball, but just want to say we really appreciate you guys that support us here at the Voice of College Football, both on the West Virginia side and on the Big 12 side. And also encourage you guys to subscribe to both those channels and be sure hit a thumbs up before you head out here. It's been really fun hosting these post-game shows and chatting with you guys throughout the season, though. See what you guys got here in the comments section before we wrap up one more of these. Wet Blanket says, congrats, Mountaineers. Hell of a win. I really appreciate that, man. Really appreciate that a lot. Joey Foster says, we won, but it's so quiet in this chat. We would think we had our butts handed to it. I guess it does feel like it. It's a weird feeling after this one, man. It's because I think a lot of people were probably expecting to come on here ranting about the performance and the fact that we may have lost to, what was it, a 3-8 team at the time heading into this one or whatever it was. And so then I think a lot of people were kind of stunned and you don't really know what to say. You're almost at a loss for words. That's kind of how I was when I started the stream. My heart was still racing from the game-winning drive, though. But I agree. It's a weird situation. But at the end of the day, found a way to win. That's all I keep going back to because that's all I can go back to, I guess, Joey. But for sure, man, it's a different feeling after this one. But ultimately, can't be too upset about a win, even though it didn't come the way that we liked, the way that we hoped, or with the performance that we should have played with. But the resiliency was there. This team has that resolve, and they had a little bit of a clutch gene late, and they found a way to get that 8th win. Timothy says, I thought the way game started, we were going to blow them out. As did I, Timothy. I really thought it was going to be for sure. William said, I know there's more to this picture than we will ever know, but hopefully it plays out the benefit of those loving and dedicated Mountaineers. Amen. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And that's perfect comment there to end it on. All in all, I think that, us as Mountaineer fans just need to, be happy that this team, found a way to win this football game. They finished the year with 8 wins. They finished the year with 6 conference wins, way more than they were projected. The DraftKings win line on the season was 4.5. They doubled that. The DraftKings conference win line was, 3.5. They nearly doubled that as well. So I think that you having a very successful season, first 8-win season in over 5 years. So as fans, let's just rally behind the team, cheer them on, and hopefully go get a bowl game win, no matter who we're matched up with, because a win in the bowl game, and that means West Virginia is going to finish the year as a top 25 ranked team, which would be very big and a lot of momentum heading into next year. And, I gave you the rundown a little bit earlier on some of the talent that West Virginia has returning and some of the players that they could potentially add that would really make West Virginia a competitor for a Big 12 conference title next season. So we have a lot to be, thankful for and a lot to be excited about, I think, moving forward with the future of West Virginia football. I'm thankful that they found a way to, come out victorious in a game in which they did not bring their A game, but they still found a way to get it done at the end. And I'm also thankful that West Virginia, secures an 8-win season and a top 5 finish in the Big 12 conference. I'm sure the rest of Mountaineer Nation is as well. Now let's just wait and see who we play in a bowl game, where we play them at, and then we'll talk about that some more moving forward here. But all in all, just to wrap this one up, West Virginia wins it 34-31 thanks to a game-winning drive from Garrett Green and the Mountaineer offense as he hits Jaheim White on the wheel route up the left sideline for the game-winning touchdown with 23 seconds remaining in the football game. West Virginia finds a way to survive and steal a victory away from the Bears to secure their 8th win of the season overall and their 6th win in the Big 12 Conference. West Virginia finishes the year ranked in the top 5 in the Big 12 Conference standings and has a bowl game now coming up on the way. Appreciate you guys tuning in here to this post-game show on the West Virginia Voice of College Football channel or the Big 12 Voice of College Football channel, wherever you took this one in or wherever you took them in throughout the season. We really appreciate it and can't thank you guys enough. West Virginia wins it, and hopefully they find a way to do the same thing in the bowl game, and hopefully it's a fun one to watch, just as fun and entertaining as this football game ended up being here in the final regular season game for the West Virginia Mountaineers. Having said that, as always, I'm Jordan Cruz, and until next time, let's go Mountaineers.